We are members of the Galway Common of the National Party, and we are here in Milltown in North Galway to commemorate the Milltown ambush, which took place exactly 100 years ago in June of 1921. The ambush was carried out by the flying column of the North Galway Brigade of the IRA under the command of Thomas Dunleavy. The object of the ambush was a combined RIC black and tan patrol that was returning to Milltown barracks very near here after having completed their patrol. The ambush party consisted of 8 volunteers armed with rifles and revolvers. The patrol were armed with rifles. The patrol were coming along the side of the road in single file. A scout reported to Commandant Dunleavy on the number of RIC and black and tans in the patrol and the direction they were taking. This took place just a few yards from where we are standing here now. The IRA occupied positions on one side of the road. The RIC rounded the bend, and in a few minutes they were in the ambush position and they came under fire. 2 of the Crown forces were killed outright and 1 was badly wounded. The 4th member of the patrol escaped. He got inside the fence opposite to where the IRA were in position and afterwards escaped to the barracks in Milltown. The names of those killed were Sergeant Morden and Constable Day. The man who escaped was named Carter. The members of the Milltown company who took part in the ambush and whose memory and whose bravery we salute today were Captain Thomas Fearick, volunteers John Patrick McCormick, Daniel McCormick, Patrick Welsh, Peter Brennan, Peter Burke, Martin Slattery and Company Quartermaster Thomas Donlan. The attack took place exactly a fortnight before the truce. After the attack, the volunteers withdrew immediately in a southward direction across the field. The IRA were unable to collect the weapons left by the dead and wounded RIC, owing to the fire from the RIC men who escaped to the far side of the road, and also to rifle and machine gun fire from nearby Milltown barracks. The barracks in Milltown at the time was the home to between 35 to 40 RIC and black and tans who formed the garrison there. The volunteers all got away safely under the cover of darkness. This is the exact scene of the Milltown ambush in 1921. This is the road down which the RIC black and tan patrol were coming. They were ambushed turning this very corner by the members of the flying column who were positioned just right across the road, just behind me here. And this is where the patrol came under fire and the ambush took place in 1921. Well, that was 100 years ago, and I think it's appropriate that we reflect on a couple of things here and just ask ourselves what those men, those brave men, were fighting for and what they had hoped to achieve, and to contrast it with the situation today. They fought, many of them gave their lives, and they all risked their lives. And did they do that for a country which is now drowning in debt to the tune of €245 billion? Did they think they were fighting for a country which in future years would become a tax haven for multinational corporations? And did they think they were fighting for a country where indoctrinating primary school children in LGBT propaganda and poisoning their minds in the process is considered to be desirable and progressive mind you? Never in their worst nightmares did the freedom fighters of 100 years ago foresee the depths of degradation that a future Irish government would sink to. Did those brave men risk getting burned out of their houses and homes so that thousands of their fellow countrymen and women could be homeless on the streets and be treated like third-class citizens. And while this is the situation, it's also worth pondering on one thing, that while thousands of our own people are sleeping rough and some dying on the streets, successive Irish governments give the guts of €1 billion in foreign aid every year. Now just consider that for a moment, just ponder on it. Our own people living and some of them dying on the streets, while we donate the guts of €1 billion in foreign aid every year. I mean, further comment on that is unnecessary. What more can you add to it? Also, did these brave men risk the noose or the firing squad so that our elderly and infirm could be treated abominably in nursing homes during the COVID-19 pandemic? Did the nationalist men and women of 100 years ago fight for an independent republic so that political representatives of today could give away and squander our natural resources, such as oil, gas and fishing rights? The men and women of 1921 held dear the idea of freedom and sovereignty, so much so that they would fight against all odds for it and indeed die for it. The British are gone from most of the country today, but who needs the British to oppress us now, when we have our very own in the Dáil in Dublin to do that? The old promises of Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil are broken through each generation, failed through each generation. Will the Irish people fall for those old promises again? Will the Dublin Bay South constituency fall for those old promises? The generation of the 1920s suffered great hardship and fought with the greatest courage. The young volunteers were in many cases students, farmers, farmers' sons, fishermen, labourers and tradesmen. They were on the run and were being hunted by Crown forces. While most in the west of the country they were inadequately armed and equipped, they showed a fearlessness and resolute belief in pursuing their objective of a free Ireland. It was young people that made up these companies, battalions and brigades who struck the blow for Irish independence. They had nothing to lose and everything to gain, which was a free, sovereign nation. The youth of today, compared to the youth of the 1920s, it could be said, are fighting a similar battle for their own place within this nation once again, but under different circumstances. In many cases, the modern day Irish youth must play second fiddle to the darlings of the political and business establishment and the media. I refer, of course, to the so-called New Irish, the modern day planters who provide cheap labour for greedy, ruthless business interests. We call on the youth of this generation to assert themselves again and to lay claim to their birthright and come forward and claim what is yours. The vessel for doing this is the National Party. The youth of today have everything to gain by joining us. Today, on this centenary, the National Party remembers the bravery of the North Galway Flying Column by having party members here today to display the Irish flag at the exact site of the ambush and to show recognition for the bravery of the volunteers of the North Galway Brigade who fought for Irish freedom. Ar yes J go raibh a anam.